Okay, so after playing Skate Story, Skate Story tricked me into believing that I enjoy skateboard games, which I do not. So I played, I guess this is for what we've been playing this week, but I played 20 hours of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
This week?
And then I also played like 10 hours of Skate and then a little bit of Session. And
you didn't like him?
I actually did not like skateboard games. Hi. Yeah, that's enough of that. Hi. Welcome to Overthinking Games, podcast about what video games can teach us. We are missing Katie. I feel like we should kind of say our backgrounds because I've been using our backgrounds as a way to pitch ourselves to guests. But then when they go back and listen to an episode, I want them to like feel like the pitch has been referenced.
I mean, that used to be the thing. You guys always used to introduce yourselves as, let's start being professional. It's 2026, new year, new us.
Yeah. So my name is Dempsey Tapley. I'm one of your hosts. I am a creative professional. I'm a filmmaker, and I love to talk about video games. Katie, who is a middle school English teacher and special ed teacher, is gone this week, taking care of what's a disease that she could have? Appendicitis. She's getting her appendix removed. And then joining me, as always, we have Seth.
Hi. I would just like to note, I think it's the idea of like, hey, let's do this segment so that people actually know what's going on with us, and then proceeding to say that that Katie's not here because she has appendicitis is very fun. Hi, I'm Seth. I'm a high school earth and environmental science teacher. I'm also, I guess, our like local roguelite guy, as will be evident in an episode that will come out at some point where I lectured about roguelites recently. But yeah, what can I say?
And then Brett.
Hi, I'm Brett. I have a background in graphic design. I like to procrastinate, and I also do podcast things. I'm not as exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, but Brett has a better podcast than us, which is Lord to Death. Go listen to it. So this week, our topic is going to be sequels. I played Silk Song and Hades 2 over the last couple months, I guess, and really interested in like the idea that sequels get bigger. Oh, and Citizen Sleeper 2. Okay, Citizen Sleeper 2 is actually why I wanted to talk about this topic.
It's a very good one. Yep. Like a good example, rather.
Yes, because Citizen Sleeper 2 does the thing I don't like about sequels where they open the scope more. And I got the DesignWorks book from Lust and Cult, who publishes DesignWorks. So I got the one for Outer Wilds and the one for Citizen Sleeper. And him, the developer of Citizen Sleeper, whose name escapes me at the moment, talks about how it works because it's kind of just a story about a guy who happens to live, but there's nothing. The only thing that makes him special is that he's a little bit disabled. And that makes his life a little bit more complicated than the average person. And so he's put in a little bit more dramatic situations, but like ultimately, he's just like a guy. And then I think Citizen Sleeper 2 doesn't follow that same philosophy and is a lot weaker for it, in my opinion. And that's what I want to talk about, is how I feel like a lot of times sequels will grow the scope of the narrative and then lose the personal, intimate connection that I found so endearing in the first game, which I think is going to be a common theme. Anyways, but that's our topic. Before we get there, we'll talk about what we've been playing this week. I'll go first because I've already alluded to what I've been playing. I have been playing so much Tony Hawk, and the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2. And this is what I'll say. I wish I found there's the free skate mode where you don't have to win any of the goals and things like that. And you can just check them out, which I think is actually fun. Like, that's kind of how I preferred to play it. The goals in Tony Hawk feel kind of frustratingly arbitrary. It's like, do a thing over this gap and reach this many points, and the letters are here, and here that you have to get all in one run or whatever. Because how it works is you're on a timer. You have like 2 minutes. You have a list of goals, and then you complete as many goals as you can, and you can start over and doing it as many times as you want in order to achieve all your goals. But like, there is, and then you're rewarded by achieving goals to then open another area is why you're rewarded. but I don't find that fun.
Okay, so I have a counterpoint to this, and to say that originally it was only the first 3 Tony Hawk games that actually had that sort of the same gameplay loop, and then 4 really shook it up. Although when they remade 4, they remade it in the style of 3. So 4 actually had like quests that you'd go and do, and they did still have like collect the skate letters, do this, do this, do this. Like they still had those things in there, but they added more interesting things. Like, I don't know, the first level I think was a university level, and you have to go like dunk one of the professors in like in like a giant like vat or something like that. So you have to like grind over him and do that. Or there's like other interesting like objectives that they added in the later series that they just decided to completely get rid of in the remake, which I think is very disappointing.
Well, yeah, because I think it would benefit from that, because like, so a game that I have not been playing, but I have been watching my roommate/sibling play is Goat Simulator. And Goat Simulator has arbitrary goals, but they're all little gags and give you a little joke. And so you do the thing, and then this like piece of production design makes you laugh, and then you kind of want to explore all the comedy in the game.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of motivates you to like, and I think like that's like, I would be more, I can't do Goat Simulator right now because I'm a vegan gamer, but that's what I'm calling my no violence. Oh, I'm not allowing myself to play any combat based games, which Ghost Simulator, you're pushing people all over the place. So I can't play that. So that's why I refer to myself as a vegan gamer. But that's so much more appealing because you're rewarded by like the world kind of responding to you in some way. Like it's like a little secret and in Tony Hawk, like it's the same thing. Like
I think you would really static. I think you would like 4 onwards, and especially Underground 1 and 2, because they have Underground 1 and 2, they started like actually doing full storylines throughout the entire game. So it's like Underground 2, the entire premise, because that's one I think I played the most, was I think that one was the one where you were basically making like a Jackass movie, but in skateboarding, and the entire thing was you're trying to get this like mockumentary made, and it's like it's insane, like the most
early 2000s plot ever.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, no, exactly. But you wouldn't be able to play it right now because it is a strangely violent game when you're not skateboarding. Okay. There is a lot of minor violence that some major violence that you do upon people, but I genuinely think if that's what you like in a game, I think that you would actually like the later entries in the Tony Hawk games.
Sure.
Well, you know what? Specifically Underground 1 and 2. I can't say anything about the other ones.
Well, I remember as a kid playing Tony Hawk Underground on the GameCube, and I think I have a copy of it still for my GameCube, but it's horrible to set up my GameCube on my TV. So yeah, so that's something that I've been playing. I've also been watching my sibling/roommate play Skyrim for the first time.
Ooh.
And they are not a like core gaming person. Like they've played some video games, but definitely not like they haven't been exposed to like what we would consider like the canon of video games. And seeing them play Skyrim for the first time reminds me that Skyrim is a good game.
Yeah.
Like it's like there's such a sense of like wonder and mystery and intrigue and adventure to that game. I thought it would age poorly because I'm like, oh, like this game came out like over a decade ago. It's like 2 generations behind. Like, does this have much to offer someone who's, seen like, games like she watched me play Baldur's Gate and Clair Obscur and things like that. So I was like this person has some exposure to modern games. Does Skyrim have anything to offer? But like there is such a sense, and there's also a sense of like really confident pacing to Skyrim, where like it takes quite a while, and like the game is okay with making things take a long time to get information or to get quests and things like that. She killed a chicken and then had the village kill her, which I think is very fun.
Amazing.
Skyrim's really good. Yeah, Skyrim's really good about like giving you little ways that the world responds to your actions in pretty fantastic ways, even if that's overeager and overzealous villagers. It's just a fun little gag to like, oh, I killed this chicken, now they will kill me, and then I have to reload my save or whatever. So that's been good. I played a little bit of Skate as well, which is like, so it's live service. So it's a free game. So it's a free live service skateboard game. And it's so gross to like, I don't know, to like be advertised like digital currency in a skateboard game.
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't feel good. So the thing about Skate is like you control the board via the thumbsticks. So instead of like pressing, like holding or pressing circle to do a kickflip, you just make different shapes on the thumbsticks, which is pretty cool. But like altogether, like the entire like live service element of it, which is really off-putting. I don't play live service games anyways. Like I'm not a Fortnite or like I have no live service games that I play. So like that element of it just kind of grossed me out. One thing that I think Tony Hawk, so like comparing Skate Story to Tony Hawk, which they're not the same thing, which made me realize that like Skate Story, it is a skateboarding game with good skateboarding mechanics, but it's very much an adventure game. Like it's very much like a game with a story and a plot, and like skateboarding happens to be the way that you traverse the world. But like Tony Hawk is just like a skateboarding game for skateboarding's sake. I think Tony Hawk really does benefit from having like a very fantastical version of skateboarding. Like you can launch yourself up 3 stories and then drop like half a mile down and be okay. Like it's like, yeah. So I think so because Skate also has kind of a fantastical, like you stick to rails like glue and you go up really far and you can like Skate, you can launch yourself off buildings. Like, I think one of the first things you do in the game Skate is, like, do, like, a 5-story jump. And you kind of just feel like a Marvel superhero at that point. But, yeah, and then I played a little bit of Session, but I didn't play enough to have an opinion on it because I was like, I actually don't think I like skateboard games. so that's been my gaming habits over the last week or so. Seth, because Seth cannot go last because he complains. What have you been playing?
Really 2 main things. And funnily enough, on the topic of Skyrim, I've also been playing Skyrim. Maybe I'm just remembering that you were talking about it, I think, like last time we recorded. But that must be it, because I essentially booted up Skyrim and played it a bunch over the weekend. So it must have been you talked about it, and then I was like, dang, I kind of feel like playing Skyrim. I was able to get it for... I don't remember exactly how much everything came out to, but I think I paid $20 for base game Skyrim on the PS5, and then I paid another $20 for like the anniversary edition, which is like all the DLC plus all of the Creation Club content, which is like, I didn't know that was a thing. Which, if you're not familiar with the Creation Club content, is like all the stuff that used to be like essentially paid DLC. Like they had the paid DLC that you could access through Skyrim. Like paid mods almost.
I was going to say, I thought the Creation Club was just a way to monetize mods, and basically like they go through and approve mods that you kind of have to pay for.
Right. But now as part of the anniversary edition, they have a bunch of those like included in the anniversary edition. So it's almost like there's like a curated set of community mods that you get with like a certain edition of Skyrim. Anyway. This is my first time playing Skyrim in a while, I want to say. It's been a good couple of years. And you know what? To Dempsey's point, I'm having the same sort of experience. Like, I have kind of forgotten how good of a game Skyrim is. And I kind of like everything about it. Like, the lore for the Elder Scrolls is really good. And, like, combat in Skyrim doesn't feel great, but, like, it's serviceable for what it is. Like, I kind of swing my sword, and it kind of swings like I'm swinging a pool noodle. But, like, it's fun enough. I'm doing, like, a full mage build, and, like, I'm having fun just, like, conjuring a flame Atronach, and then, like, bound sword in the other hand, and, like, going to town on whatever I come across. The questing is just, like, a lot of fun. Even, like, I'm enjoying the Radiant quests. Like, because I'm doing a Mage College run, I went and talked to the guy who works in the Mage College library, and he's like, can you go to this dungeon and get me this book? And I'm like, okay. Because fundamentally, I think, like, the dungeon crawling aspect of Skyrim is pretty fun. Which, like, probably plays to its success. Like, it's just a good gameplay loop. It's fun to like get upgraded equipment, and especially now that there's like all this creation club stuff. You know, there's equipment I've never seen before, which is weird that like I get to see never before seen equipment in Skyrim. There's like spells and stuff I've never seen before, so it's fun to just like run into stuff and be like, oh, okay, like I wasn't expecting that to happen. I'm just having a good time with it. I think I'm like level like 30 something now.
Oh, so you're like in it. You're like deep into it.
I've played a lot. But like I know a little bit of like the Skyrim meta. So like I've been doing a little like power leveling by like spamming Muffle a bunch. I'll like run and I'll do like a potions run where I'll like buy out the alchemist inventory, make a bunch of potions, sell it back to them, get like a speech level or two. Like I've been a little bit here, a little bit there, do a little bit of the main quest, do a little bit of the mage college quest, run around the map, hit a couple like random radiant quests, go back into the quest log, do a random 1 or 2 here I found. Like it's just a game that has a lot to do, and everything to do is fun. Like it's hard to go wrong. And yeah, Dempsey, to bounce back to what you said, like Skyrim came out in November of 2011. So literally like 14 years later, it still holds up really well. Like it's still really fun. The gameplay loop hasn't gotten any worse. Like it runs great on my PS5, as you would hope for a game from 2011. And like it's got some jank, and the kind of jank that you're like, yeah, this is a game from like 2011. Like your horse can like kind of go up vertical surfaces. You get like weird bugs. I get frustrated at the save mechanics, as I usually do. But usually that's more my fault than the game's fault. The other thing that I've been playing a lot this week is, not a lot, I played a little bit this week, is some modded Minecraft. Because I was like, I want to play Minecraft, but I don't know if I want to play Minecraft. Because I never know what to do when I boot up Minecraft. I'm like, there's not really much to do. And as you guys know, I'm a bit more of like, I need like things to do in my game. I need like a checklist.
Some structure.
I need some structure. And modded Minecraft regular Minecraft just doesn't have that kind of like structure that I need. So I decided to go modded Minecraft. And like, modded Minecraft is in such a weird spot if you guys haven't like played a lot of it. Because even like the basic level modded Minecraft packs have like 450 mods in them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot of like, there's a lot of like libraries and support mods and like, oh, a mod for like just enough items so you can look up all the recipes, and then like multiple JEI add-ons and like UI mods and mods to support the UI mods. And like that's where it can spiral out of control really quick. But like there's just too much to do. And these mod packs will give you like these big quest books to like help you progress through the pack. But it somehow loops back into itself of like there are too many things to do. Like it's trying to please too many people at the same time. Like the pack that I started playing, and I might play a little bit more of it, is a Skyblocks type pack. So you're just on like the little sky island and you need to like accumulate resources. But then the quest book gives you like, hey, you need to get to this next level of progression. Here are 3 different ways that you can do it using like 3 different mod pathways, all of which will lead you down the path to get iron, so that you can go to like the next quest progress. But like the quest book has like 1,000 quests.
Yeah.
It has like, you get like coins from completing quests, which then you can use in like the in-game quest book shop. And like, I'm just like, I want to play Minecraft, but like with cool extra stuff to do. And I want you to help me through that. And I would actually prefer if it was more of like a curated experience rather than just like, here's a bunch of bullshit, whatever you find fun you could do, and whatever you don't find fun you don't have to do. Just be like, hey, for the early game, here is the mod progression. Here's like what we expect you to do. When you get through this, you'll unlock the next thing to get to the next set of progression. I almost want it to be more puzzle-like rather than sandbox-like, which is typically how these like big mod packs go. And it back in the day, back in my days, that's how like some of the original like modded Minecraft packs went. That's what old school Feed the Beast was for anybody in 2012.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was thinking of. What you're describing sounds like hell, honestly.
Yeah, and that's kind of just like the current modded Minecraft experience, which like is frustrating. And I thought about playing it where like I would just play it and then do the quests and then like just discard any extra stuff that they give me. So like I'm forced to like naturally progress through everything. But that still doesn't solve the issue of like, hey, there's 3 different ways to accomplish this. And like one of them, and like all of them have been around since 2012. Like it also doesn't do anything new and innovative. It's just like, hey, we give you options. And you're like, I don't want options. I want some like new interesting way to do this. Which is really like a specific old man rant that's niche to the fact that I've been playing modded Minecraft for the last decade and a half. And I'm salty that there's not better options. It almost feels like it's designed for Zoomer children.
I think that's exactly what it's designed for, like, honestly.
It's designed for, like, Gen Alpha who is, like, getting into modded Minecraft for the first time, and they need stimuli. And I'm like, I just want to build my island and don't make it more complicated. That's pretty much all I've been playing. It's been some modded Minecraft. It's been a lot of Skyrim. A little bit of RuneScape here and there, but nothing exciting. We're doing wedding planning, so... What have you been playing? That's
the real game, is wedding planning. It's kind of hilarious that somehow everyone has circled back onto Skyrim, and I don't know why I did, but I've just found myself after the holidays. I finally have some free time. So this is not me bullshitting. This is like straight up without being influenced by anything else, because I have been on and off playing Skyrim VR for the last like year, and I have for the first time this past week picked it back up and started playing it again. And I'm kind of, I don't know, I want to love it so bad. Like, I love Skyrim. Like, I really do love Skyrim. Mm-hmm. Skyrim VR is a lot because you have to mod it to hell for it to be good, because otherwise it is genuinely one of the worst VR ports that I've ever played. It's not good to play vanilla. It's really hard to play vanilla. Putting all the mods in it is... there's a lot of problems that go into it, and like thankfully things are like relatively stable with Wabbajack and stuff like that. So, but it is still a lot. My computer can run it fine, but it is a big commitment, and also I can't play for more than like a half hour to an hour at a time, or else I start to feel like I don't know where I am. So I've been slowly playing through Skyrim VR, and my plan is I would like to finish my Skyrim VR playthrough this year, because I bought a VR headset basically just for Half-Life Alyx and Skyrim VR, and I've only completed one of those things. So I need to play it. It's, yeah, I don't know. I think that there are a lot of things that Skyrim VR does well. Like, I always end up going back to an archer. I can't play anything else. I've tried to play other things. I've tried to play mage. I've tried to play just sword and shield. I've tried to play like Warhammer with a Warhammer. I'm also trying to play Warhammer, but regardless. But I always end up just being like, I find a bow for the first time. Like, you find one, you know, in the first area that you're in, and I look at it and go, oh, but what about Sneak Archer? And then I always end up playing Sneak Archer no matter what I want to do. So I am playing Sneak Archer in Skyrim VR, and it is a lot of fun. It is a ton of fun in Skyrim VR, especially because I have the mod where if you physically crouch, you enter like sneak mode in VR. Cool. So like, as much as my knees can't stand it, it's very immersive. It's very fun. I'm enjoying that a lot. I don't really have a whole lot to say on it otherwise. It's kind of janky. I've finally dialed in the settings to make it playable. But otherwise, I have also played a little bit of Minecraft. I picked up Minecraft for the first time this year, or the first time in a year, because my wife has been playing a lot. And seeing her play has made me want to play. So I picked it up, played for probably like 3-4 hours, and I gave myself the challenge that I'm only going to live underground. I'm not going to go up to the surface unless I need wood. So I gathered wood, went down to a cave, and I've just been down there ever since. And I've gotten to a point where now I have to find somewhere permanent to settle, or at least I probably should. And it's just so much effort because there's so many new things that have been introduced since the last time I really played. And I feel like I'm getting overwhelmed by the amount of options that are available to me. And now I've hit a stall. I don't know if I'm going to pick it back up anytime soon because I just feel overwhelmed by the decisions. But maybe I will pick it back up. Otherwise, I guess I've been playing Ball X Pit, which I don't really have a whole lot of opinions on. It's fun. It is what it is. It's not as enthralling as I think I would have liked it to be. It's not sucking me in, but it is a good game. It's fun. I really like the art style. The soundtrack is okay. The gameplay loop is pretty fun. I don't really have a whole ton to say about Ball X Pit. And then I've been playing Skate Story, which the only thing I'll really say about Skate Story this week is that while it is a game that is primarily about skateboarding, the real game is in the environment and the storytelling. But it does, I will say, it does have, I think, one of the best skateboarding mechanics that exists in video games. Because I feel like every other skateboarding game is pretty copy paste, except for Skate, where you do things. It's a different control scheme. But it's basically, like Dempsey said, it's a fantastical version. Other skateboarding games are fantastical versions of skateboarding. Whereas somehow in this game where you're playing as a demon who wants to eat the moon, it has the most grounded skateboard mechanics in any skateboarding game that exists, which is such an oxymoron. But genuinely, the skateboard mechanics in Skate Story are really, really good. And it's genuinely such a pleasure to play. And I find myself really meandering through areas just because I'm trying to learn a new trick, and then I want to learn how to do it well. I'm trying to get the timing down right for everything. And then I just have fun just skating and doing kickflips and trying to find new places to grind. And it's just it's very chill. It's very fun. I don't have too much more commentary on it than that right now.
You know what else I really like about Skate Story, and I think it's a product of how grounded the skating mechanic is I think it has the best skating sound design.
Oh yeah,
that I've heard.
Yeah. It is this. The sound of the skate, the wheels on concrete, is so it's so real. Honestly, it's such a good sound.
It's wildly close and textured, and because the camera's close, in Tony Hawk and Skate and things like that, you kind of want to get some distance from the camera and the character, and so you can't have the sound up close like that. But because of the camera angles in Skate Story, I think you can justify having a lot crisper, more detailed, closer sound, and that's something that I find myself missing a lot. Is just the sound of Skate Story, I think, is so fantastic.
I agree. And I will also say it's also very tactile. I don't know how else to describe it, but every time, and maybe I think a lot of that is in the sound design, where every time you do a kickflip, it feels it feels like I've done a kickflip. It's there's a very heavy weight to doing a trick. And when you grind, it really feels like somehow there's a palpable tension to when you're grinding on a rail. I don't know, there's such a weight to the game, and I don't understand how that's possible. I don't know, it's so strange, but it's very, very, very well made. And I think it's really just a love letter to how skateboarding feels, I think, in a lot of ways. Yeah. And it's just so good. So that's all I have to say about that.
Okay, so our topic today is sequels, or squeakquels, for Alvin and the Chipmunk fans, right? Is that?
Thank God you included them in this. There are dozens.
Yeah, what a niche. Yeah.
Right, that's what the squeakquel.
No, yeah,
that's it. You nailed it.
Okay, so this year we had 3 sequels that were important to me. I guess other people can talk about different. Space Marine 2 came out. There were obviously other sequels. Space Marine 2 too.
No.
Yeah, that would be insane. And so as I think about the sequels that are important to me as sequels, Black Ops 7 doesn't really feel like a sequel to like the Black Ops. Like it feels like a franchise. This is like
agreed.
differentiating like franchises that have like more than like 4 entries, but like sequels themselves. Outer Worlds 2 dropped as well, which is a game I did not play, but that's just another sequel conversation. But so Citizen Sleeper, I think because of the team mechanic and because of the larger, I guess slight spoilers, in Citizen Sleeper 2, you have a larger political and like almost quasi like corporate thriller plot. I think it really robs the like day-to-day desperation that Citizen Sleeper 1 feels like being underemployed right out of college. Like I remember substitute teaching, trying to be a filmmaker and working at a pizza place. And that is how Citizen Sleeper 1 feels. Like you're kind of putting together gig work, trying to freelance yourself into some sense of stability. Like you have this idea that you technically could be capable of survival, but like in practice, that's a lot more difficult than it feels. And like the rolling mechanics gave like so for Citizen Sleeper, for people who don't know, Citizen Sleeper works by like at the beginning of the day, you roll 6 dice. Or you roll 4 dice. Well, you roll 6-sided dice. You roll some dice, and then you can
5. I don't know, whatever it is, 5 or 6 dice.
You roll like 5 d6s, and then you can choose what to do with each number. And only 6s are guaranteed successes, so you can roll a 5 and still get like a neutral outcome. And I don't know. There was something like so. That made the world so lived in, like feel so lived in, because like the question was like, okay, if you have to be a minimum wage employee on a space colony station, like what would your day-to-day life be? And then within that, you still got to like make friends and like try to build meaning somehow while also worrying about things like medication and how are you going to get your healthcare needs taken care of, which I think is like, that's for me, that's why Citizen Sleeper is one of my favorite games ever, because there are aspects of my life that less so now, more so in my early 20s, but like that I really felt that kind of like tension in the resources that I have available and like the relationships that I'm trying to foster and how like the resources you have available, not having enough resources can make even like maintaining your friendships more difficult. And Citizen Sleeper 2, like you're running like a business, and like you have like employees to take care of, and they all have their own like kind of a lot more fantastical, like it's still grounded within the world, but like you're just a much bigger fish in your community. And I think like that it doesn't feel as desperate as the first game. And then I think about God of War Ragnarok versus God of War 2018. And God of War Ragnarok 2018 was like this really beautiful father-son story. It was very just them two figuring stuff out, and it's very intimate. And then Ragnarok obviously balloons the scope, and you have full character arcs for the dwarfs and for Freya, and like kind of everyone gets like these full-blown narratives. And then your son as well kind of gets narratives separate from the dad. Your boy Atreus has a whole arc with Odin and people like that, and that really expands the narrative of God of War. And then Silksong, I think, is a much bigger, more fantastical story that has a lot more to say about like our society. Like I feel like Silksong was really interested in like looking at like extractive systems and like how like the bourgeoisie is kind of built on the labor and desperation of like so many more areas than the little bit that get to enjoy. And like obviously there's a lot of religious commentary in Silksong. One of my favorite things is you can absolve your sins for money and they just tell you to go back to work.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
And like you have a lot, like obviously Hornet has dialogue and Hornet has, you know, a perspective and things like that, which on one hand I really like. I do like that. I think that's a good move. But it does feel like it it broadens out and makes the story a lot bigger and makes the narrative a lot more complicated. And you have a lot more developed characters in Silk Song. The princes, for example, like it's a very good story, but it's just a lot more developed than, the Hollow Knight kind of stuff. And so do you guys feel this trend as well of like what the second game in a series does compared to the first one? And also when you play a sequel, do you ever feel like you miss the oftentimes more focused nature of the initial like original game, if that makes sense?
Yeah. And I think that I have two really good examples on top of the ones that you mentioned, because Citizen Sleeper 2 is a really good example of a game that I did enjoy, but for very different reasons than I enjoyed the first one. And it's because it's a very different game, despite having the same, core gameplay mechanic of you roll dice, you use those dice to do day-to-day tasks. It had a much bigger scope, and that made it feel like it wasn't the same. I don't know. It was a very different game, but two games that I think were... So I have a good game and a bad game. I think a game that did it well and a game that it did it bad. A game that I think it did badly, that was a sequel, was Metroid Prime 4, where I believe I've talked about this before and griped on it. It took the Metroid Prime formula, watered it down, and tried to sell it to people as like a concentrate. They added a giant open world for absolutely no reason. They added a motorcycle for absolutely no reason, other than to get around this massive open world that they've built. So they literally created a problem, which was creating an open world that was too big, and then solved the problem by adding another useless mechanic that is only meant to solve the problem of having an open world that is too big. And I think that is just, as a whole, really terrible, and it made for a very, very lukewarm game. Whereas I think the design of the game was good otherwise. I think that a lot of things about the game were very, very well done. Like, the bosses were interesting. They were very varied. I really like the boss design, and I like a lot of the area designs of the, typical Metroid areas. But just overall, the game was so disjointed and strange. And then you have NPCs just yapping in your radio the entire game. Like, literally, if you spend too long in one place, there's a guy who comes over your radio and he's like, remember, if you need help, you can always radio me by going to the start menu and pressing X. And I'm like, yeah, I know. You've said that 3 times. If I wanted help, I would ask you, sir, but I do not need your assistance. I'm just taking my time. And things like that, it's trying to make it more accessible to people. And I think more accessible to younger people specifically, because Metroidvania games tend to be for a more mature audience, I think, and a more mature audience who can think through problems a little better. But it feels like they're trying to make this game accessible for like 6 and 7-year-olds, which is just not... I just don't think that's the core audience who... The people who enjoyed Metroid Prime 4 when it came out are in their late 20s, you know what I mean? And like early 30s. For the most part, I think. And it's like, make a game for them. That's who you're making the game for. Why are you making it just a shitty experience? The other example that I have is Doom: The Dark Ages, which also went in a kind of similar direction where they opened up the world design a lot more. Like, the level designs are very much more open. There's a lot more secrets. There's a lot more things to see within them. And oftentimes you have an objective that you can get to from multiple directions. But I think that Doom: The Dark Ages did it really well in the fact that in every portion of the map that you go to, there is something to do. Whether it is a secret, whether it's something that you can unlock later, whether it's a horde of enemies that's guarding something. Even though they've opened up the level design and made it a much larger game, and the scope of Doom: The Dark Ages is much larger, they focus a lot more on the Doom guy and his personal feelings and his relationship to the world around him, whereas Doom 2016 is very much just about kill demons, have fun. They did, in concept, the same thing that Metroid Prime 4 did, where they added more NPCs, they made the main character a little bit more personable. They gave them motivation and it gave you insight to their feelings. They opened up the map and they gave you more things to do. But one of them actually filled the world with things that were interesting and palpable, and the other just gave us bloatware basically. So I think that, to answer the original question, I think that sequels are tending to go for it. It always has to be bigger. It always has to be better. It always has to be something that builds upon the original, rather than just taking what the original did that was well done and applying it in a new setting. Like something like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, which is very much just Kingdom Come Deliverance 1, but strictly just upgraded, and it's basically the same game in a different setting. And that's also another one that's an example of the opposite, where they just saw what worked about the first one and just made the same game again, basically. And that's not a bad thing. That's not a criticism. Like, I think that's absolutely very well done. And I think it was a good play on their part, where they just took things that could have been improved from the first one and just made them a little better. But I think overall we're on a trend where every game has to be bigger. Every game has to be the next Skyrim. Every sequel that comes out is boasting, oh, we're going to have a bigger map than Skyrim. Ooh, it's going to be bigger than GTA 5. It's like, I don't want a game that's bigger. I just want a game that's either just as good or better. And bigger does not always mean better, especially in games. So
I think the thing is, though, like, if you're gonna... So many games are successful because they're lightning in a bottle. Like, you developed this game sort of at the right time and in the right, like, video game media context, and it's also, like, good, right? I think this gets talked about in a different context, which is like how to become a famous YouTuber, which is in reality like a combination of, like, you actually need to be good at the job of being a YouTuber on top of you need to get lucky. And I think that's the case for a lot of games. Like, for a game to get popular, it's usually coming from a developer who has experience making games and has made a good game, but also gets lucky. And sometimes I think just like sequels fail to just capture the same vibe. Like, to me, I think that's why I enjoy Silksong probably a little bit less than I enjoyed Hollow Knight. Because I just think it doesn't capture like the same lightning in the bottle, despite the fact that I think they're fairly similar games, and there's a lot of aspects of Silksong I like better than Hollow Knight. Like, I like the varied up movesets, and I like the wave-based combat. I know you guys don't.
Yeah.
But I actually don't mind. But I think, generally speaking, I think the indie space does a pretty good job of making sequels. Like, I'm thinking about the roguelite space, where, like, Binding of Isaac Rebirth, and then the eventual, like, expansions for, like, Afterbirth Plus, were all very successful from the original Flash Isaac. And from Flash Isaac to Binding of Isaac Rebirth on its new engine really was just, like, a dramatic scope increase for the game. But to Brett's point, like, it worked because it was more of the same. It's still the Binding of Isaac, but there's more Isaac to play. Spelunky is probably one of the most famous examples of this in, like, the indie roguelite space. Spelunky 2 is, I think, legitimately one of the best games of all time as far as roguelites go. And it's literally just Spelunky 1, but better. Like, that's the pitch for Spelunky 2. Did you like Spelunky 1? Okay, Spelunky 2 is that game, but better. In literally every way. Like, anything you could possibly ask for. It's a lot longer, too. Like, there's multiple paths that you can choose. The game is, like, 1.5 to 2x the length for a full run. But it's just better. So, like, you don't mind. It feels smooth. It plays smooth. I think that's also why, like, a lot of games don't come out with sequels, is because I think a developer goes and sits down and says, like, hey, I want to make a sequel, but then realizes that that's tough for whatever reason. And I think a good example for me for this is, like, Elden Ring, where I like Shadow of the Erdtree a lot, but I don't really desire to play it if I go back and play Elden Ring. Like, I'm fine to play through the main Elden Ring game, but it, like, Shadow of the Erdtree is good, like, without any doubt, but there's something about, like, how the scope of the game changed, and, like, Shadow of the Erdtree plays very differently from base game Elden Ring, because you have to get the Shadow Tree fragments, and it's just, like, another thing to grind out that I just don't have the desire to do.
It's also a very big tonal shift from just the base game. Like, it just feels like a different game in a really weird way. And I think that's a really good example.
But then, like, Elden Ring is sort of in a fascinating game space because, like, if we look at the history of the Dark Souls franchise, like, Dark Souls 1 is technically a sequel to Demon Souls and sort of does what Demon Souls does, but better. And then Dark Souls 2 comes out, which is a game of its whole own mess.
Yep.
But, like, Dark Souls 2 is a good game and a standalone, but you put it next to Dark Souls 1 and then you're like, this sucks. But then Elden Ring comes out and is arguably just Dark Souls 2 2. Dempsey looks confused, but Dempsey,
I like how you just glossed over. I like how you just glossed over Dark Souls 3. If that wasn't the best of them, but
well, I mean, Dark Souls 3 is just Dark Souls 1 2. Like, it's like FromSoft does this thing where they make sequels, but they don't call them it. So I don't know. I mean, if a game developer can kind of capture like what made their game stand out and make it interesting and then capitalize on that to make a sequel that I think is also interesting, then they can do it. And I think that's where you end up with a game like Spelunky 2, or hell, you end up with a game like Team Fortress 2 or Portal 2.
Yeah.
Like, Valve did this all the time, where their second game is just like way better than the first one. Half-Life 2, Team Fortress 2, Portal 2, like, Valve were the sequel people for a long time. And I think that's just like refining the formula of what made the first game good, but also like understanding your player base and understanding like, hey, these people want to do more of this thing. How do we deliver more of this thing in a way that's like people aren't going to be bored? But like, I find it hard to believe. I'm trying to think if I ever played a game's sequel that was more of the same, and I was like, this is boring because it's more of the same. I don't think I've ever done that.
What about Hades 2? Because it's something that we've kind of avoided this entire time is Hades 2.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So like, but Hades 2 isn't more of the same. Like, you have the tarot cards instead of the mirror. You have the multiple paths you could take.
Okay.
Hades 2 is... I mean, a lot of it is more of the same, I'll be honest. But this is one of those things where, like, I don't know if I really understand why Hades 2 doesn't capture, like, the same lightning in a bottle that Hades did.
Well, see, the thing is that I think, first of all, reviews would differ. Because I think Hades 2, like, the general cultural consensus, at least by, like, game score... I think Hades 2, maybe it's not reviewed better than Hades, but like it's up there. Like it's above like a 90 on Metacritic and things like that. I think it was the best reviewed game of last year.
It's a good game, but like, why don't I want to play it?
And that's why I was wondering if it's more because it's just more of the same. I mean, fundamentally, there are things that are different about it, but is it just because it's the same gameplay loop that you played 100 hours of before and you just don't want to do it again?
I mean, that could possibly be the case, but I think I'd be more willing to make an argument for like why, like some things just don't need like an increase of scope. And it does feel like Hades 2 like increases the scope a little bit of Hades 1, where I think like part of the interesting narrative in Hades 1 is like you have this connecting story between like a father and his son. And like I just don't feel very motivated by the story of Hades 2. Like I don't really understand the main character's goal right now. And like I haven't played a lot of it, but because I think they kind of drop us like in situ.
Yeah.
And maybe that's more part of the narrative is like discovering like why she's doing this. But it seems pretty clear from like the start of Hades, I mean, as far as I remember, that like A, you hate your dad because he's kind of a shitty person, and B, you're trying to find your mom. And that's like a dynamic that gets played a lot. And for the lady in Hades 2, who, for the love of God, I can't even remember her name.
Melone.
She seems to just like she's beating she wants to beat up Kronos for some reason that I can't even tell you.
It's because Kronos kind of killed her family.
Kind of.
Okay, but sure.
Yeah.
It's just it just doesn't feel like a very motivating. I mean, for her it is, but like for me, I don't feel as invested.
I think so. One of the questions that this makes me think of is like the difference between, I guess, if I have to make it a question, like what is the difference between a sequel that just like replaces the original and a sequel that like the original still is important and worth playing? Because like if you only play Portal 2 and never play Portal 1, you've gotten the best Portal experience. Like you don't need to play Portal 1.
I disagree very heavily on that. I think just because you're missing out on so much context from Portal 1, like Portal 1 is a lot of jank, and like, I mean, it was a tech demo. Like literally Portal was built to be a tech demo for the Orange Box. It wasn't meant to have a sequel. It wasn't like that. They just threw a bunch of shit at the wall just to show that they could. But I think in just playing Portal 2, I will agree it's strictly a better game. Like strictly in every single sense. Like there's no part of Portal 2 that is worse than Portal 1. But I think that you're missing a lot of context. But
like story
I guess,
context.
Story context, yeah, because it's like if you're just dropped in, I mean, they don't even really explain it, like why you're there in Portal 2. They assume that you've played the first one and that you know why you're there. They don't do a whole lot of backtracking. You could figure it out, but you're missing out on so many references, and I feel like so many things would be lost on you if you didn't play Portal 1.
But Dempsey, your question was just about like games that if you play the sequel, you don't need to play the original one.
Yeah, because I feel like, so like if someone was to ask me like, does Silksong replace Hollow Knight? And I don't think it does.
No.
Like I think that Hollow Knight is still on its own, worth playing, separate from the merits of Silksong, because Hollow Knight gives you a different feeling, a different story, a different vibe.
I agree.
Than Silksong. And so, but I do feel like some games, like the sequel, is just like the definitive way to experience that, like to have that mechanical experience.
Baldur's Gate 3 is a perfect example of that, where most people who have played Baldur's Gate 3 have not played 1 or 2.
And should not go back and play 1 or 2.
And they will probably not do it. Yeah, and they probably shouldn't, because it is an infinitesimally worse experience. But, you know, it's I think...
You could.
I think we're bumping up between Brett's love for lore and Brett being like, "We'll play the first ones. There's lore there."
Okay, so and this is I'm literally looking through my Steam library, and I'm literally going through this exact realization too, because I look at Avowed and I'm like, okay, if you go and play Avowed, you're not going to really understand the world if you don't play Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2. But then it's the Baldur's Gate 3 thing where it's like it's really just different games and you don't have to understand this. It's okay if you don't understand. It's okay if you haven't played 2 games. Baldur's Gate 3, it's like, yeah, you should play 1 and 2, or at least 2, to understand a lot of references, but it doesn't matter. You don't have to. And I come to that conceit. That's okay. But I mean, in terms of games that I think replace the predecessor, I think a really good example of that would be something like Titanfall 2, where Titanfall 2 is literally just Titanfall 1, but better and with a story. Like, it's just like, there's zero reason to play Titanfall 1.
Yeah.
Zero. Absolutely zero. If you have a preference for Titanfall 1, you are wrong. I don't know how else to tell you. But yeah, something like Titanfall 2 is just it's a strict upgrade. Same with Team Fortress 2. You mentioned it before, Seth, but
yeah,
that's just one that just replaces the first one. Like, there's no reason to play it. You could say the same for Half-Life 2, but I still think you should play Half-Life 1. And if you don't want to play Half-Life 1, play Black Mesa, because that's a better experience. But regardless, yes, this is me going into my I think you should understand the story to play the game, which actually doesn't matter for most people, I don't think.
I mean, and like, to the point of some other games that we've also brought up today anyway, like, there's no reason to go back and play Spelunky 1 if you can play Spelunky 2. Like, it's literally just a better game. It had, like, I think you could pretty much play it the same way and, like, you'll be fine. It's not literally, but, like, for all intents and purposes, sure. Binding of Isaac, another game I mentioned. under no circumstance should you go back and play Flash Isaac. It actually is horrific to go do. And the fact that I played like 250 hours of that game is embarrassing, given the fact that it exists.
What about like Demon Souls? Do you think that like if you played Dark Souls 1?
Yeah, they're totally
different enough. It's totally different. Yeah. And that's something where I'm like, you can play any of the FromSoft like the Soulsborne games rather, and they are all just their own very distinct experience, and I don't think one necessarily replaces the other, although there are ones that are mechanically better to play. Like Dark Souls 3 is the optimal way to play Dark Souls, and like if you're going to introduce someone into the Soulsborne games, drop them into Dark Souls 3 first. They're going to be like, "What, shouldn't I play the first two?" And it's like, you're really not going to have a good time. In 2026, you're going to have a bad time trying to play Dark Souls 1 and a worse time trying to play Dark Souls 2. So just play 3. It's fine. And if you like the series enough, go back and play the other ones. It's fine.
Go back and play Dark Souls 1 and you'll be like, holy cow, this game's amazing.
Yeah.
Why did they invent a roguelite in 2000? Not really. But why did they invent a Metroidvania in 2009 and call it Dark Souls 1? But some other games I wanted to make quick mention of is like, Brett said like Team Fortress. I was thinking of The Binding of Isaac. But like, Dark Souls games are good of examples of like games you should go back and play. But also like, we talked a lot about Skyrim.
Sure.
Where like, Skyrim is, Dempsey, to your point, more of a franchise that you had mentioned earlier. But like, you probably should not be going back and playing any of the old Elder Scrolls games if you can play
Unless
Skyrim.
you care about the lore, then you do.
Unless you care about the lore, which, like, exactly, like, the Elder Scrolls is a game series where, like, the lore does matter, and you will learn more about this universe if you go back and play the old games. And, like, each of the games does kind of have, like, some distinct, unique stuff to it, but, like, Skyrim is the definitive way to play an Elder Scrolls game. Sure, like, they just remastered Oblivion, and, like, that's good, apparently. I haven't played it yet.
It's fine.
But, like, I've been watching a lot of videos about Elder Scrolls games, and, like, Elder Scrolls games through time. And, like, Oblivion is, I think you could go back and play Oblivion without, like, too much issue, even if you played Skyrim, especially if you played Skyrim. Now you can play the remaster. Once you start getting back to, like, Morrowind, things start getting a little iffy on, like, is this playable for a modern audience? And then, like, God help you if you play, like, Daggerfall or Arena, which are essentially unplayable by, like, modern game standards.
Yep.
What about, I think a really prototypical example that people are probably screaming at their iPods about is Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom.
Are you implying that people are listening to this podcast on their iPod?
Dude, if you're listening to this on an iPod, send an email in, because that's badass.
We need to hear from you. You are our target demographic.
Yeah. So like, do you feel like Breath of the Wild, like Tears of the Kingdom, like replaces Breath of the Wild? Like if someone hasn't played both of those games, and would you steer them towards just like, it's the same map, just get Breath of the Wild, there's more to do anyways? I would give them Breath. Again, I think you're just missing out on context, but they're actually separated enough that I don't think it actually matters that much. I hold to that I think Breath of the Wild is the better experience, just because I think that Tears of the Kingdom just added a lot of bloat that didn't... They added a lot of bloat for the sake of one mechanic in the game, and I think that the only interesting thing that it actually adds is being able to build things, which is, I think, not a reason enough to make it better than Breath of the Wild. But I understand that's a bad take. Like, it's a hot take. That is something that no one has agreed with me on. That's okay. I don't think that Tears of the Kingdom replaces Breath of the Wild. Yeah, good. Again, let's do it. I don't think that Tears of the Kingdom replaces Breath of the Wild. I think that they're their own separate experiences because mechanically they are. I mean, it's the same, like you would say, does Breath of the Wild replace Wind Waker? It's like, no, they're both fundamentally different experiences. I think to a lesser degree, obviously, you know, Wind Waker is a very, very different game from Breath of the Wild, but yeah.
I still think for me, like, part of that question depends on the context of, like, if the person is planning on playing both games, then obviously, like, play Breath of the Wild, then play Tears of the Kingdom. But if it was, like, I don't know, for, like, my fiance, if she was like, hey, I want to play one of these games, which one should I play? I would probably tell her to play Breath of the Wild, just because, like, to Brett's point about context, right? Like, this is sometimes where I think games are like literally direct sequels versus just like a spiritual successor. But usually they say that for something that's not directly related. But I mean, a good real world example of this is my fiance got me like the second book in a series because she didn't realize it was book 2. And I'm like, I'm not going to read this because I'm not going to know what's happening. And that's kind of how I feel about Tears of the Kingdom. Like, Tears of the Kingdom's a pretty direct sequel to Breath of the Wild. It would be like starting book 2, and you're like, I don't know who any of these people are, or like why anything that I'm looking at matters. But
and
like,
I think it's the same. It's the same mechanics, but like a little more overwhelming. Like, there is a lot more to do, and I think it's just the simpler experience, especially if someone hasn't played Zelda games, to just play Breath of the Wild. Like,
because Breath of the Wild's a very approachable game.
Yeah,
you know, even franchise wise. But it's also like I probably wouldn't tell somebody to play Night Rain if you've never played like Elden Ring. I guess you could, but like it would probably be confusing as to like everything that's happening. Probably the entire game is confusing if you've never played base game Elden Ring.
Yeah, agreed.
Just, you're like, who are these people? Where am I? Nothing makes sense.
But at the same time, I think in this conversation, like I just thought about the Fallout series. And like, I would recommend that people play Fallout 4 first, even though New Vegas is my favorite of the games. It's like Fallout 4 is just like the more polished experience. And I think it is more approachable than 3 or New Vegas.
Go back and play New Vegas.
But it's like, if you like Fallout 4, then like, yeah, go back and play the other ones, because there's nothing lost on you if you don't play one or the other. Because they all have something different to offer about the setting. Like, they're all set in different places in the States. So it's like, you're not really missing anything by not playing New Vegas first. You're just, because they're so separate from each other. Like, I would recommend that people play Fallout 4 first. And then, yeah, if you like it, go back and play the other games. Sure, just know that they are not as polished. They're not going to be as nice experience to play, but they are better.
And funnily enough, you also run back into the Elder Scrolls issue, which is, yeah, go back and play like Fallout 3 in New Vegas, but like don't go back and play Fallout 1 and 2.
No, no.
Only if you're like really into it. But even then, you probably aren't gonna.
Yeah, it's some like masochism, I think, in that.
Yeah, I mean, those aren't the same genre. Like,
they're
like top-down
isometric
isometric point-and-click adventures.
Yeah, there's no reason to think that you would enjoy those games, even if you really love Fallout.
I don't enjoy them, and I love Fallout. I think they're terrible.
But they're tough.
They're good games in their own right, and obviously they birthed a franchise that I like. But like it in modern times, and we Seth said this before. In modern times, they're not playable games. Like they're really hard to play. You have to really love or have grown up in the time that they came out and played those games to really enjoy them. I don't think like a 15-year-old would pick up Fallout 1 and be like, this is a great game.
So I think, and we're getting to time.
Yeah,
so
we got to wrap up.
My closing thought or my closing question. One of the things that helps me make sense of this is letting go of the pressure that sequels should be quote unquote better. Like, I don't think Ragnarok has to be better than the first God of War game. I think they're two very different experiences. One is very focused and one is very mythological. And that's okay for them to, follow the same characters in different contexts. I think I have this bias that I assume technology and video games are on a one-way trajectory towards getting better. And I don't think that's true, especially over like shorter time periods, like a decade or so. But like, just because a game comes out 5 years after another game doesn't necessarily mean that game will be better. And I think when I think about whether sequels replace the old one or not, like, that's a bias that I have, is just assuming that because it's new, it will be better. And that's not always true. And so, like, for me, that's an internal bias that I have to check.
Cough, cough, GTA 6.
About like assuming, just like I have this like inbuilt assumption that whatever is newer is better.
I mean, to wrap up, and this will be my closing thought as well, but I think this is the unfortunate reality that will be the Elder Scrolls 6. I think the next Elder Scrolls game is not going to be Skyrim. And I think it'll be great. I think it'll be an awesome, fun game. I don't think it's going to be Skyrim in the way that like people want it to be Skyrim, but better.
In the way that we're all still playing Skyrim today.
Right. Because like Skyrim but better exists, and it's Skyrim in 2026. Like, you can just boot up Skyrim and it is better than when you played it 14 years ago. I promise.
Very true. Very true.
And that's not even just like the modding scene. It's like Anniversary Edition and all the DLCs and like the Creation Club content. Like, and they have like, I think they have like new HD textures. Like, I think they've improved their own game in the past. Since it came out. So like Skyrim in 2026 is the better Skyrim, and I think Elder Scrolls 6 will not be better. And like that's okay. I think people will still play Skyrim, and some people will play a lot of the new game and then go back to Skyrim, and that's okay too.
Yeah. I think that sequels should be made when sequels were intended to be made. And that may seem like a very obvious statement, but like The Last of Us was there to tell a story, right? The Last of Us doesn't really happen without The Last of Us 2. Or, I mean, you could have left The Last of Us as a standalone game, but you can tell with playing the second one that it was intentional that they were going to make a second one anyways. Same with the newer God of War games. Ragnarok didn't necessarily need to happen. I mean, like, they teased stuff at the end of God of War that there was going to be a sequel, but you can tell that it was written to have had a sequel. And I think that games that weren't written to have had a sequel probably shouldn't have sequels. It's the same with television shows and the same with movies, where not everything needs to be a cinematic universe. Not everything needs 8 seasons. I don't think things should be written for 1 season. I think that a television show should aim for like, hey, when is this story done? We need about 3 seasons to tell the story. We're going to do 3 seasons. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that just because something does well means that it deserves a sequel. I think that something should just have a sequel when it was meant to have a sequel, which I think is a very milquetoast, lukewarm take, but that's my take.
And with that, today has been January 12th. I forgot to say the day at the beginning. If you have opinions on what's your favorite or least favorite sequels, or sequels that you feel like either do or do not replace the original games, let us know. Is bringing up Elder Scrolls fair? Because that feels like a franchise. Same with Fallout.
Whatever.
Thanks for listening. Follow us on Blue Sky, TikTok, Threads, Instagram, YouTube, and our email's in the show notes. And I think that's it. Yeah, that's all. Keep on drinking milk. Good for your bones. Unless you're lactose intolerant.
Eat your Wheaties.
Yeah, eat your Wheaties. Bye.
Okay, bye.